welcome to Walker Creative. And of course, it's always great to share all the marketing, digital marketing information that we can share with you guys out there to help you grow your small businesses, grow your practices, whatever that is. That might be an ad night hustle. But no matter what it is, our purpose, of course, is to give you tools for your marketing toolbox to do better, to be better, to grow what you're doing, and especially as we're launching right now into 2022. Let's just jump into something that's extremely important, and we're very proud to have with us today Charles John from World Class Media. This guy is an SEO expert and a good friend, and we just want to chat today and share some SEO tools that anybody hustling, small business owners, people, as I've said, can use to really just get these SEO things in place that are the right things to be doing to grow yourself digitally online, grow your brand, and so forth. And of course, I want to make sure and start out, if you haven't subscribed to the Walker Creative YouTube channel, definitely subscribe. Let us know, thumbs up, thumbs down if you like or don't like the content, and we'll keep getting out good content for you guys to help out. All right, Charles, thank you so much for being with us today to share your knowledge over many years of doing SEO for people all over the world.
Yeah. I'm happy to be here and appreciate the time, etc. I would I'll introduce myself in terms of my history. I started out, I really got into SEO back in 2008. I became the Director of Internet Marketing for Survival Insurance, and that was back when you could, I built about 20,000 pages with all kinds of keywords on them and whatnot to get more leads. Then I went to the search agency, which is probably one of the biggest SEO companies in the world. And I worked on huge sites, worked on like Realtor.com, LA Live, Staples Center, others under non-disclosure agreements that I can't really talk about. But and I helped grow sites up to 12 million visits per month. Then I've also, over the last couple of years, I've worked with a lot of doctors, over 50 doctors. And increasing their leads, calls, traffic, and I've helped them grow. Everything from lawyers to cosmetic surgeons to plastic surgeons. So I've done the whole smorgasbord of SEO, and I know the map to the minefield. I'm not, a lot changes.
Yeah.
Google, I think, makes about I saw an article that they made over 1,600 changes last year to their algorithms and stuff. So they're constantly trying to change things. Of course, the goal is to get you to pay for ads, because that's how they make money. But if you consider it, the goal of Google is to give you the most popular or the preferred result.
Yeah.
And so that's what they're always trying to do. And if you can game the system, then you don't have to pay for ads, and that, they constantly try and change things up.
Just to jump in, because what the things you're saying is, it's not like a perfect science that, and of course we all wish that, if you pressed A, you got B, and no matter what, it always worked. And certainly we've all seen plenty of Facebook ads and Instagram ads and YouTube ads that are like the marketing dude who's super slick, and he's like, if you do this, you're going to do this, and it's going to, make you a six-figure income every single month. And it would be wonderful if there was some fantasy world that was true, but we
as a key, right? And money will fly out.
Right. Yeah, and as you and I, as long-term digital marketers, know that that's just not true. But there's best practices that truly are best practices, that if you do these things, you're going to have a much better chance to win. And even if you're going to spend some money on ads, that you do these best practice SEO activities, which you and I will get into chatting about, you're going to win, and you're going to win over the competition that isn't doing the things that they should be doing that are best practices.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there are things that Google can't change. There are things that are natural, that illustrate what they are looking for. And one of the top number one things that cannot be faked, or is the biggest if you think about Google and Bing, right, they're looking for characteristics that show that something is more popular or something is more important.
I'm just going to say something. I am literally going to, I want to take notes while you're talking, because the things you're going to drop right now, if you're watching this or listening, take notes, because things that Charles is about to tell us, we need to make sure we're doing. Okay, go for it again. Sorry to cut you off. So you're saying Google and Bing things they can't change.
There are things that are, that are unchangeable, that are illustrations. For example, I'll illustrate what I'm talking about. If you create Google has a thing called Google Webmaster Tools, or it's I think it's called Search Console now, which basically is free. You're looking through Google's eyes at your website from an SEO perspective, and they show you various stats. The first one is they'll show you impressions. So what Google will do is will show 100 results per page on average, right? And page one has about 100 results on it, and they're all just little snippets from different sites, right? So what Google does is they look for what's called click-through rate, CTR. And click-through rate is king amongst all search engines, even amongst advertising. It's funny because there at the search agency, there was a guy who was in charge of advertising. So I did the SEO side and he did the advertising side. And I mean, we had huge clients, right? So he was also in charge of doing the tests and whatnot. So we get Google certified, and he had literally run everybody through the Google advanced analytics tests and everything like that. Anyways, he knew the tests inside and out. I had a moment to sit down with him, and I was like, if there's one thing on Google Ads that is above everything else, like what is king? And he was like, oh, it's click-through rate. Click-through rate is king. And it's also king in SEO because it shows search engines, hey, we showed 1,000 people your snippet or these 100 snippets, and 99 of them clicked on the number one, and 99 clicked on, and 45 clicked on number two, and 35 clicked on number three. So they're going to say, the number one got the most clicks out of all those impressions. It is the most popular, so we're going to move that up, right?
Yeah.
So Google is going constantly, and they rotate positions. Like, you will not always be number one. They're going to throw somebody above you a couple times to see how that does. They're going to throw number three up there to number one, and they'll rotate it just to see what gets the highest click-through rate. So the thing to know right off the bat is that click-through rate is king. So the other important bomb to drop is that it is always a good idea to copy number one. So, like, you can never go wrong. If Google's changing everything, right, constantly, it's a good idea to say, okay, so what number one is doing? What is their title? What is their description on their page? And you can take what they're doing and rewrite it for yourself. For example, if you are a dentist, you're looking for I've worked with several dentists, and I know that.
If you're looking for Invisalign or implants.
Yeah, and this is bomb number 3 that I'll get into a little bit later. But the number one thing is, it's always a good idea to copy whoever's number one and what they're doing and their name and their snippet, because they're obviously getting a lot of clicks. Google is a great way to find what is the most popular result. For example, one change in headline can get you 21% more clicks, right? Just by changing one word. Like if you put the word free at the beginning, for example, on something, you may get a tremendous higher click-through rate just by adding one word, or like wow, or awesome, or something to stand out just by adding a single word at the beginning of your title, right? Because you have these 100 results, you have to stand out. There's thousands of options now, millions of options, right?
Yeah.
for every search, there's usually like over a million different results. So, and it's only getting bigger and bigger. So you have to stand out. And one way to do that is, little tricks like that, adding, free to the beginning, or putting sale. Like one of my clients, I always put sale. This Canadian client that I have that does tiles, etc. So I have businesses all over the board, doctors. I have a tile company in Canada who has been with me for years, and they're just number one across the board on everything. And one key thing that I put in there was a, all in caps sale. Everything else was lowercase, and sale is in caps. So, or a clearance, or, deals, or something like that. That will increase your click-through rate tremendously. Okay, that being said, what you ought to do is copy what the person who is number one is doing in terms of length, in terms of what his description and title is, and then maybe add one word to your description that makes yours a little bit better than his. You know what I mean? Like change the names, obviously, and what they're saying, but it differs for different types of niches, right? So if you're a dentist,
So let me throw out an example to see how that might work. So let's say you're a dentist, in Sacramento and California, and so you're a dentist, and you go family dentistry in Sacramento.
Yeah.
And so you Google that. The number one non-ad, the number one, organic ranked page is some downtown dentist who has a page that's titled Sacramento Family Dentist.
Yeah.
And then it has a bunch of information about what they do as a family dentist in Sacramento. So you would literally look at that and you'd go, you could go discount Sacramento Family Dentist and discount all caps, or free Sacramento Family Dentist, and then on that, and create a page that's titled that, and then on that page you could have some free thing like, if you come in for a check-in, a checkup, or a new patient, we'll give you a free electric toothbrush, and that's what the free thing is.
Exactly.
Okay, interesting.
And you can do free colon. Well, I would recommend front loading the keyword that you want to target. So the third aha moment for you is going to be that obviously all keywords are not equal. So for a dentist, and I've worked with several dentists, I know that getting braces, for example, might be a $10,000 deal because the person's going to come back, they're going to get them tightened, or they're going to come in for Invisalign. That's probably $3,500 or so pop. Whereas if somebody's coming in for a filling, that's only like $100 maybe total. Or teeth whitening could be $50. And so those are very low ticket items. And what you want to do is focus on the most profitable services first for dentists, for example. And that's what you want to rank them for, because it's going to be way more profitable for them. And there is this school of thought that, of course, any customer is better than no customer. So you want to get them in the door for a teeth whitening, and then you can upsell them to additional things. And there is a great school of thought for that. So I would say it is important, but I would always say, if you're doing SEO, focus on your most profitable services first, because that's where the majority of your effort's going to go into. Mm-hmm. And it is, it is important to work on your most profitable services, because those will pay for your ads, those will pay for your additional services. The customer or the client who can pay the most to acquire a customer is going to win, right?
And so you're talking about the key pages on your website, like work on how you write headers, subheaders, and then keywords in the text. The pages for your most profitable services really do a lot of focus on how those web pages are built.
Right. So, and when you're focusing on SEO, I would say always, because it's going to require effort to remain number one across various searches, right? And in order to do that, I'd say put your effort not into the lowest profitable services, but the most profitable services first. when you do that, those will pay for the advertising to get people in for teeth whitening or teeth cleaning, or the latter model that a lot of marketers focus on.
That's
get
interesting.
people in the door and upsell them.
That's
but
very
I'm
interesting.
Always like, do the Tesla model, which is put your most expensive car first. Like they came out with the Tesla S, I believe, or
the Roadster. Well, the really early days was the Roadster.
Yeah, and that was over 200 grand.
Yeah,
for a Roadster, 250K, and they sold that first, and then they came out with their middle model, and then they came out with the X, which is supposed to be an SUV. It doesn't look like an SUV, but then they came out with now they're coming out with the Cybertruck that's going to be even cheaper, and the Tesla 3, which is their lower model. So they started with their highest, most profitable service first, right?
Yeah.
So you want to focus on that and put your effort into your most profitable service. And so for doctors, I always ask them, hey, what is your most profitable service?
And I like that. And so SEO wise, focus on your most profitable services, but advertising wise, let's say Facebook or Instagram advertising, focus on your less expensive. It's like a way to look at how you're going to invest in your marketing.
Right. And so, and the other side of that is you can't attract whales with minnow bait. So, if you're focusing on teeth whitening, you're going to get clients who can't pay for the higher items and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I would always, also on marketing, I would focus on whales, and I would focus on getting the most profitable services in your door. And that's going to help you, also cover those smaller guys that you may not want to work with all the time. But focus on the money makers is all I'm saying.
So Charles, fantastic. Oh wow! Like I would say 5 or 6 killer bomb drops on the way, that get a little deep of how we're building the web pages. And Walker Creative, of course, we're building websites for our clients all the time and looking at these things. But I mean, just talking with you right now, between you and I can tell you that I'm already thinking of things I'm going to be doing with clients' websites, even in clients' websites we've already built that I'm going to be looking at again, because these are things that you need to have in place in your website. And it's not something, and tell me if I'm wrong, this is not something it's done once and you leave it. Like, right? If you've built a website, you can't go back a year later and go, I'm going to make a little adjustment. Isn't it all about, updating, optimizing, rewriting things better? Tell me.
So, like I mentioned before, there are, I would say 20 ways to lose 1 pound rather than one way to lose 20 pounds. So there's various tricks in the box that I would say to overall increase your traffic. Now, the first one I told you, what's king, is click-through rate, obviously. So if you copy basically number one, so additionally, I want to illustrate that Google has spent millions, if not billions by now, on this free thing called Chrome, right? Which is a browser. And they own all the statistics behind Chrome. A lot. I don't know if it's the number one browser now, but it's close up there between that, Internet Explorer, and Firefox, etc. So they own all the metrics they can tell now if your page is good and how users respond to it, what they click on, how many of them scroll down the page, what's the average time on site. They can look at all those metrics. If you don't think they're using that for SEO, then you would be naive, because if they own all that data, they can then use that to their advantage, and they are, and I've seen it as well. So they can pretty much tell if it's a good site, if it's relevant. And let me just drop the 3 core things that will never change in SEO, and I call it the ABCs of SEO. The first one is architecture. Makes it really easy to remember. So architecture, how your site's built, are the pages user-friendly? Google switched now because there's more people on phones than there are on desktop computers. So they have switched their whole algorithm to be mobile based instead of desktop based.
Mm-hmm.
And that happened a couple of years ago. So now all the ranking factors are primarily based on mobile. So you want to make sure your site is mobile friendly. It is able to, be scrolled. If you install Google Webmaster Tools, you can see all the statistics around your site. The next thing is architecture, backlinks, and content. ABC, architecture. So your site needs to be mobile friendly, needs to be able to be, needs to be good content, needs to be relevant. Backlinks used to be the sheer number of sites that linked back to you. Google got smart because people were gaming the system and building thousands of junky Chinese backlinks and all kinds of stuff pointing back to their site. And Google's like, hey, we gotta fix this because people are gaming the system. So now it is an algorithm upon relevancy. So page A, if it talks about dentistry and it links to page B, what is the relevancy score of that? So it looks at the relevance of words on that page. So that is also why you want to build links that are highly relevant to your site. And that is another thing. So backlinks is highly important.
Now I want to say here, because it is highly important, but at a local business owner level, local dentist office level, of course, that office is, unless you've got an SEO guy working in the office, which most of these people would not, this is not going to be something they're going to be working on. But backlinks is important, and as part of a deep SEO strategy point, if you wanted to get into it, I just want people out there to not be overwhelmed and just go, well, I don't even understand that. Well, we can do that for you, and Charles can do that for you, but it's just, it's something to know, because to not understand that, we want to make sure you're informed, everybody out there who's watching this right now.
Yeah. I just talked to a doctor yesterday who does his own stuff, and he's really into this, which is funny. And I was like, wow, you built your own backlinks and stuff like that. So, I mean, it's, it is a technique. And I mentioned before, it's always a good idea to follow number one. So look at who's number one, look at the sites that that are linking back to them, their primary source of links. Yeah. And then you copy that. And then the last one is content. And you'll notice Yelp basically changes their titles every month, I believe. It'll say updated, and it'll have the month and the date or whatever on it. So every month they're changing their titles and their descriptions a little bit because they're constantly freshening up their content. So that should be also part of your strategy, is to regularly update your site and your titles and your descriptions, and change them once a month, I'd say, and it could be as easy as putting, hyphen updated June 2020 or 2022, right? January 2022. But you want to make it as short as possible, obviously. But look at how Yelp does theirs, and they're definitely savvy. They're number one on a lot of searches, but personally, I think that they are not worth the money when you're doing ads with them.
No, and I would say that is, while we're mentioning Yelp from an SEO perspective, I have, in the many years I've been doing digital marketing for small business owners and doctors, I've never heard a success story of advertising with Yelp. And I don't mean to just, badmouth Yelp on this, but it's important to have a well set up Yelp page and so forth, and lots of pictures so people can find you there. But I don't know about paying them necessarily. Right.
I've never found it more profitable to pay them with any of my clients. And I have heard, I haven't experienced it firsthand, but I have heard there's tricks to, they also have an algorithm to prevent fake 5-star reviews and stuff like that. There are tricks to, uploading your business profile and to proving that you're a real business and stuff that are available for free that will boost you above a lot of the competition. So like if you upload your business license or your LLC formation or whatever you have around your business, I think that's a good idea. I have not done that personally, but I have heard that that has helped people rank well in Yelp. Additionally, if you think about Google Maps, and we're going to get into this as like probably the number one first place to start when you're getting started.
Okay, so I want to make sure everybody gets that. Charles is about to tell us, so we just went through the ABCs, the basics of SEO. Now Charles is going to give us the number one thing to start with for SEO for your business.
So you ought to have a Google My Business listing. And that is great because Google tends to put that, especially for local business owners. If you're an international or you're not based around local, it's not an important thing to have. But if you are locally based, dentist city, plastic surgeon city, etc.,
veterinarian city.
Veterinarian. Now, one thing you should know is that it is very hard to rank well in a city that you are not in. So, in other words, I'm in Lakeway, just outside of Austin, and if I were trying to be like a dentist Austin, yet I'm in Lakeway, it's going to be very difficult because I'm outside the city. Google also ranks you based on your radius around their own pin for that city, for example. So if you are right next to what they consider Austin, and it's a very specific point. Like you type in Austin on Google Maps, and it'll show you a dot, right? And they have, it's maybe arbitrary. I don't know how they figured it out, but you want to be as close to that as possible. But that being said, if you're a dentist, you can have a satellite office. I've seen some dentists use their home address as a great starting point. You can even hide your address once you get it verified so that people call the number and they can't see your home address. That is also harder to rank for a hidden address than it is to have your address listed.
So for most small business owners, practice owners who do obviously have a practice, a building in their town, they want to have a Google My Business set up and fully optimized and filled in, pictures, everything, all associated with the town they're in.
Right.
Yeah.
And it is also, click-through rate is king, also on Google My Business. So in determining your name, you ought to determine what is number one right now. And it could be number one based on backlinks, content, and architecture. Like those three things will never change, right? So the current number one could be based on that. So it's not just click-through rate. So it's also, is this relevant? So if somebody's looking for dentist city, your name could be dentist city in Google Maps, and that could be a huge.
And you don't mean not to be too funny, but he doesn't mean dentist city. He means like dentist Sacramento or dentist,
exactly.
Lakeland. Yeah. Enter the blank. Yeah.
Right. And so, for example, if I'm in Lakeway and I'm looking for a dentist, I'm going to click on the one that says dentist Lakeway, right? Because it's near me and that's where I want to go. So Google recognizes that. And they recognize, so they're always looking for click-through rate to see what's the most popular and to see, is this more relevant to the search? And that's what their algorithm looks for. We showed this 1,000 times, and of those 1,000 impressions, we got 25 clicks, and then number 2 got 20 clicks, and number 3 got 10 clicks.
That brings up one of those stupid questions of, it's worth your while, even if you do have to do a DBA, a doing business as. Like, let's say you're Williams Dental Arts, and you're in Boise, Idaho, but your name is Williams Dental Arts, and you go check it out, and you realize that there's no one with the name Boise Dental Arts,
right?
And yet you're right in Boise. Well, why don't you right there buy the domain name, get a DBA at the bank for Boise Dental Arts, and build a website or just redo your website as Boise Dental Arts, because then Google is going to recognize you are where your name is.
Right.
And you could get stupid. You don't want to be stupid. You want a good name, but wouldn't that line everything up?
Yes, and I recommend on Google My Business that you definitely have the city that you're in your title. So if you're, John Jones, plastic surgeon, Dr. Jones, plastic surgeon, I would recommend you change the name to Dr. Jones, Los Angeles plastic surgeon or Beverly Hills plastic surgeon. And that would, just adding the location, and your city needs to match. So if you are in Lakeway, for example, I would say Lakeway plastic surgeon. I wouldn't say Austin plastic surgeon. I mean, you could put Austin plastic surgeon Lakeway in there, so you have both of them. But but you need to match specifically the proper city that you're in.
Right.
And part of that is also Googling your zip code and seeing what Google has listed for your zip code. So if you type in, I'm in 78738, and I type that into Google, and I see what city comes up for 78738, and that should be what you have on your address.
Yeah. Good points. Good points. Yeah. Awesome. Any last things? So we've gone over the ABCs, we've gone over details about how you build your web pages, how you have to keep your website actually up to date and refreshed with new content. Yeah. New content, of course, could be blogs, new blogs every month, but also titling your key pages, your key service pages.
Yeah, and a huge point that I'll drop right here for you is that office hours. You need to have that on your web page that you're going to, and it needs to match exactly. So if you have, for example, and I've seen this with doctors all the time, they'll change their office hours and their rank will drop. So just by, they go to Google and they're like, I don't really want to work on Mondays anymore, so I'm going to take Mondays off of here. And then their Yelp listing has Mondays on there and the hours don't match. And it's just a poor user experience, and Google recognizes that, and that's a major ranking factor for Google Maps, is that the hours need to be consistent across all the other, places where they have scanned and verified your business. If you think about Google, how do they know you're a real business? Well, they'll look at other listings. They'll look at, I don't know, if you Google, sometimes you'll see reviews from other sites. They'll have reviews from Angie's List or whatever, right? They'll have 5-star reviews from all kinds of different sources. So those sources need to match, including your office hours, your name, your address, and your phone number. All needs to be identical. It's called the NAP, name, address, phone. But a lot of people forget the office hours as well, and that also needs to do.
That is huge. So you want your website to make sure match your Google listing, Google My Business and Google Maps, match your Yelp page, match your Facebook business page.
Yeah.
And any of those key top, what everybody is calling your online business listings, that name, address, phone, office hours, they better all match identically.
Exactly.
Wow, that's a key. That's huge because
Google will lower your rank based on alterations. So if I go in and I change your name on Google My Business and I add the city, I'm going to want to go into those other locations or build more citations, is what they call them in the SEO field. I'm going to add a bunch more citations that match that exactly, including the office hours. And what I typically do when I come in with clients, I'll change them to 24 hours a day, because also Google will drop you down when your office is not open. I don't know if you've seen that on Google Maps. It said this is closed this time, or this is likely to be closed. So they'll actually drop you down and move the other guys up if they're open and you're not. So I typically change everything to 24 hours. I get a 24-hour answering service that I pay for my clients, and they call, they answer, they get the phone number, and they text the lead. So just doing that alone, I mean, I've worked with some chiropractors who are open Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 9 to 12 in the afternoon, and then there's a break for lunch, and then they're back at 3 to 4 for 1 hour a week or something, so there's a lot of dilettante office hours, I would say, out there. But when you switch to 24 hours and you have a 24-hour answering service, you typically see a big increase in the number of calls, answers, and leads, etc. So
that's interesting. I mean, in certain cases that I see that could work. I in my mind, I think of a lot of my clients. They have pretty good hours. They almost, like 6 or 7 days a week, and they're open most of the day, and they have someone on reception. So, I would say the key there, but there's a huge point, is actually look and make sure that all those listings across the boards are matching and those hours match. And if you have to change your hours, make sure you change it everywhere.
Exactly.
And addresses or anything like that.
Yeah, and there's services that'll do that all for you automatically. But we can help you with that.
Awesome.
Yeah. So those are some highly important points. I mean, Google My Business is obviously it's at the top of a lot of local searches. Google has also introduced a new thing called local service ads. I have some realtors who get a ton of calls off of that, and it's just a new thing where they actually verify your license. What's great about that is not a lot of realtors have caught onto it yet, but I'm sure they will, because it's like above the maps and it's above all the listings and everything. So, find an expert in my field. I'm not sure what doctors that supports, but if you can get in on the ground floor on that Google local service ads, it's about a year old, but I have realtors who are getting a ton of calls. They guarantee, I think it's $90 a week to guarantee 3 leads. For a realtor, that's huge because, that could be, 50 grand each or something, per house, at least in Austin. So those are all key things. I do recommend having an ad budget along with your Google Maps, and there's all kinds of additional tricks to dominating, the page.
Well, these have been great points. And again, everybody, we always try to get a bunch of good content, on the Walker Creative YouTube channel. So subscribe to the channel, give us a thumbs up, thumbs down. And, Charles, it's been fantastic to have you here. So many, great points on SEO. And, as we go into 2022, I think the things I'm seeing, SEO is just continuing to be huge, but it's going to be so important now. Video is just growing every day. So video is a huge tool in your marketing toolbox. As you said, you're advertising, using Google search ads, various types of, YouTube video ads, Facebook ads as well still. And these points, as we go into 22, we're excited over here at Walker Creative. Charles, I know you guys are, things are blowing up. Things are going up. We're ready to grow.
We're ready to come out of this, this COVID whole, experience and just keep your foot on the gas. I mean, even when places are closing or shutting down, like, you just keep your foot on the gas constantly so that, your competition are falling off. You know what I mean? So keep it going.
Nice. I like that. While they shut down, we put the gas on promotion and marketing and go up and own our local areas.
Exactly.
Awesome. Thank you for being with us. You rock.